Welcome in for another edition of the Morning Espresso here on the SDH Network. I'm Jason Longshore. And as always, the Morning Espresso is brought to you by our friends at Oglethorpe University, Atlanta's premier undergraduate learning experience and soccer powerhouse. We're going to talk about some soccer powerhouses, and we're going to talk about some soccer powerhouses that maybe did not have a good evening last night in South America. Big night at Fido Midtown. It was a lot of fun at the Noche de Conmebol event. World Soccer Shop, one of the leading presenters of the event, packed house. A lot of fun. Thank you to everybody involved in putting that together. Great to connect and reconnect with lots of soccer friends from all over Atlanta. And look, we're in a special time for soccer in Atlanta right now. The Brewhouse Cafe was packed yesterday for Men in Blazers, doing a special show, also presenting the award for the best soccer bar in the United States to the Brewhouse. Big congrats to our friends over there. Huge event at Wicked Wolf in Buckhead with ATLX football for the Colombia Paraguay match. And there were a whole bunch of other watch parties for the South American qualifiers all over the city last night. Big crowds out to watch these games. And if you have not experienced a night of CONMEBOL, and I know we had some friends in the SDH network, Madison Cruz, Sophia Cupertino, who had not lived through a night of South American World Cup qualifying, whew, there were lots of things going on in this. And this is a World Cup qualifying cycle that the drama is not quite as intense as it used to be. Used to be 10 teams, and it's still the same 10 teams. You play everybody home and away. It's 18 games. It is the best format you could possibly have. But in the past, only 4 teams got automatic qualifying spots. Now 6. That might end up helping Brazil out a little bit. Used to be the 5th place team went into the Interconfederational playoff. Now it's the 7th placed team. But there was still drama. Even teams that know they're going to the World Cup, still drama last night. Let's try to recap it a little bit if you missed out. The early game, the 4 o'clock kick, it was Bolivia hosting Uruguay at altitude, and it was a draw. It's a pretty good result for Uruguay, and that result meant that Argentina earned their qualification to defend their title at the World Cup before even taking the field. Now, the real scandal in Bolivia came after the match, where the president of the Bolivian Football Federation, Fernando Costa, he confronted a fan afterwards to the point that the police had to intervene. It wasn't just Fernando Costa who was involved. His son Andres, who's the manager of Bolivian club Always Ready, 5th in the league standings in Bolivia, he managed to punch the fan. Not sure where this is going to go. Stay tuned to that. So that kicked things off in a pretty big way for the evening. Argentina, they celebrated their qualification with an absolute fiesta in Buenos Aires, 4-1 win over Brazil. Such a rout to the point that Dibu Martinez is juggling the ball inside his own 18. Raphinha, he had a lot to say before the game. Now, he was telling Nicolas Taliafico on the field, according to reports, that his comments were mistranslated. Uh, no, I don't think so, especially considering that the Brazilian media was one of the first people to report a lot of this. But anyway, um, lots of incidents in the game, lots of talking. Lots of throwing words back in people's faces. Thiago Almada was involved in 2 of the Argentine goals. This is after his golazo against Uruguay to win that match on Friday. Great performance from Almada. Great performances all around from Argentina. The Enzo Fernandez goal that was scored, the second goal of the night. 37 passes in the lead up to that goal. That is the second longest consecutive pass streak in the South American World Cup qualifiers in this cycle. So, just an incredible performance from Argentina to seal their spot right now as the best team in the world. And this result puts a lot of pressure on Brazil. Dorival Junior, the manager, already talking the Brazilian media about let's go chase Carlo Ancelotti again, thinking they could get him after the Club World Cup ends with Real Madrid this summer. Felipe Luis of Flamengo, also at the Club World Cup. Jorge Jesus of Al Hilal. Abel Ferreira of Palmeiras, all being mentioned right now. Dorival Jr., 7 games won, 7 games drawn, and 2 losses since taking over in January of 2024. But Brazil has not been convincing in a little while. And I don't know if they find that form between now and the World Cup next summer. Venezuela, they had maybe their biggest win ever, a 1-0 win at home over Peru. The Peruvians very upset with a goal that was taken away that would have earned them a point. That makes the upcoming match with Venezuela hosting Bolivia on June 4th potentially the deciding match for the interconfederational playoff spot in CONMEBOL. Bolivia had that spot on lock. They've dropped way too many points since a great start. Now Venezuela is in that spot by a point with 15 to Bolivia's 14. That game in Venezuela on June 4th will be gigantic as Venezuela tries to continue their pathway to qualifying for their first ever World Cup, the only South American country that has never qualified before. Bolivia's only been once. So very cool that the two of them are battling it out. Peru and Chile kind of also rans at this point. Another game that had a lot of drama to it, Colombia and Paraguay. Colombia scored twice. Luis Diaz, before they even got the graphic up for the clock that fast. Paraguay came back to score twice to level it, and it finished 2-2. And there were shouts Paraguay could have had a penalty that was not given. Colombia's in the last automatic qualifying spot. They haven't been convincing lately. They do have a 5-point cushion to the playoff spot. And out of the games that they have left, 3 of the 4 are against teams that are below them in the table. They should be fine, but there's a little bit of heartburn going on in Colombia after this 2-2 draw in Barranquilla last night. And Nestor Lorenzo, manager, in lots of hot water at the moment. We'll see if Colombia makes a change. The other game in South America, Ecuador, they had a goal ruled out due to VAR, scoreless draw with Chile. Ecuador's fine. They're going to go. They haven't officially qualified yet, but they'll be fine. Chile needed a win here to really keep putting the pressure on Venezuela and Bolivia. They did not get it. They are at least 2 games out right now of getting into that spot with 4 games to play. Another team booked their spot for the World Cup yesterday, Iran. They qualified after Mediterranean scored twice in a 2-2 draw with Uzbekistan yesterday, earlier in the day. Taremi from Inter Milan, he scored his second goal in the 83rd minute in Tehran, giving Iran the point that they needed to qualify for a 4th straight appearance at the World Cup, 7th appearance overall. Uzbekistan, they're 3 points behind Iran in Group A. They would have qualified for the first time with a win. They took the lead twice, but couldn't hold it. Now, then, after that game finished, the United Arab Emirates, they scored a 98th minute winner against North Korea in Saudi Arabia in a neutral site location. And that means Uzbekistan, their hopes of qualifying directly for the World Cup will come down to a showdown with the UAE in June. Now, just to continue the drama in Asian qualifying, Paulo Bento, the United Arab Emirates coach, who saw his team win that match late, he was fired a few hours afterwards. So he's out. We'll see who the UAE brings in for that big game in June. If they miss out on second place, if Uzbekistan gets it, then UAE will go into another round of qualification. The teams that finish third and fourth in the groups in Asia will then battle it out for one spot into the or for multiple different pathways into the World Cup, one of those being the interconfederational playoff. So Asian qualifying is chaos. African qualifying is chaos. Nigeria conceded a last minute goal as they're trying to play their way back into a qualification spot. That last minute goal has ended up really putting a big dent in their World Cup qualifying hopes. Egypt and Morocco are not officially in, but they're pretty close at this point. South Africa leads the group with Nigeria in it. They defeated Benin 2-0. They've got the top spot. They've got 13 points through 6, 5 clear of Rwanda. Wolfsburg forward Mohamed Amora scored a hat trick for Algeria. They beat Mozambique 5-1. They've got the lead in Group G. Cabo Verde, they remain top of Group D, 2-1 win in Angola, although Cameroon's only a point back. They beat Libya 3-1 yesterday. Sudan had control of Group B. Now they have lost it. South Sudan got a 1-1 draw with them. David Sibet scoring in stoppage time to get that point. Congo and Senegal both took advantage. They both won yesterday. Congo is on top of the group with 13 points, one ahead of Senegal, who has not lost. Sudan is in third on goal difference. That one's going to be one to watch. Ghana, they have moved into the top of Group I. They scored 8 goals in back-to-back wins over Chad and Madagascar. They should get into the World Cup. Ivory Coast, they still got work to do, but they are 1 point ahead of Gabon in Group E. Ivory Coast won 1-0 over the Gambia on Monday. Tunisia, they consolidated the top spot in Group H on Monday, 2 late goals to beat Malawi 2-0. European World Cup qualifying started in this window, and we talked about Italy and their crazy goal they conceded in Germany that was part of a 3-3 draw and a loss on aggregate in Nations League. That loss put them into the group with Norway in World Cup qualifying, and Norway's off to a great start. Can Norway get back to a World Cup? It's been a long time. They've got 6 points through 2 games. Erling Haaland has 2 goals. Martin Odegaard has 4 assists. And in June, Italy plays Norway in Oslo. That will be one to put down on your list, along with that Venezuela-Bolivia game. Big one in June, along with that Uzbekistan-UAE game. All big games. We're starting to get into that section of World Cup qualifying where the drama is just ratcheting up, and it's a lot of fun watching all of this. Another element to start thinking about as we wrap up this edition of World Cup qualifying update on the Morning Espresso, the FIFA rankings, because they will determine the pots for the draw in December. They will determine the top seeds. The 3 hosts will be seeds right now, and the final rankings in November will determine the December draw pot. Argentina, France, Spain, England, Brazil, Portugal, Netherlands, Belgium, and Italy are all going to be seeded if they all qualify. That means Germany would go into the second pot. And if Germany goes into a group with any of them, there's your group of death. Now, remember, in this new World Cup format with 48 teams, the top 2 will qualify for the next round, plus many third place teams. So there's a lot of forgiveness. Doesn't matter. We always see drama. Just get ready for the drama. Gold Cup in CONCACAF. The final 7 teams punched their tickets for that. There was one team that had to overcome a deficit in the first leg. That was Guatemala. Rubio Rubin, formerly of the U.S. men's national team, he was a big part of that. They overcame a deficit against Guyana and won 2-0 to qualify. Your other qualifiers, Jay Fortune and Trinidad and Tobago, Costa Rica, Jamaica, Honduras, Suriname, Guadeloupe, and Guatemala, as we mentioned. A couple other bits of news before we wrap up this edition of the Morning Espresso. Reports out of Europe and specifically out of Spain are saying that Trent Alexander-Arnold is headed to Real Madrid on a free transfer. I'm still blown away that Liverpool have Alexander-Arnold, Mo Salah, and Virgil van Dijk all ending contracts at the same time. No resolution on any of them yet. And this is a club that doesn't like to spend big in Liverpool. They might see 3 of their biggest players leave on free transfers with no incoming revenue and not a strong likelihood of going out and spending big to replace them. Really bad business from Liverpool all the way around. And I'm just shocked that this happened the way that it did. Bad luck for Bayern Munich. Alphonso Davies tore his ACL in the CONCACAF Nations League against the U.S. men's national team. He will be out for quite a while. That's going to affect Bayern in the Champions League the rest of this campaign. It's going to affect Canada as well as they prepare. It is early enough that you would expect him back and in at least full fitness ahead of the World Cup next year. U.S. women's national team announced a roster for upcoming friendlies. Emma Hayes selected 24 players for games against Brazil at SoFi Stadium on April 5th and in San Jose on April 8th. Trinity Rodman is the headliner of this group, back with the team for the first time since the gold medal game in the Olympics last year. Only member of Triple Espresso back in this group. Quite a few members of the She Believes roster carrying over to this group. Games today. UEFA Women's Champions League quarterfinals, second leg, Lyon and Bayern. Lyon has the lead. They're at home. They've won all 7 of their Champions League games this season. 21 goals scored, none conceded. Bayern trying to avoid their third quarterfinal exit in 4 years, and they've got a mountain to climb to get there. The interesting game is Arsenal hosting Real Madrid. Arsenal trail 2-0 after playing the first leg in Spain on a bad pitch that everybody has condemned. Arsenal's won all 6 of their home games in Europe this season. Real Madrid is on an incredible high at the moment. They earned their first Champions League knockout win last week against Arsenal, and they earned their first ever win against Barcelona in league play over the weekend. They're trying to get to the semifinals for the first time ever, as Real Madrid is finally investing in the women's game in a big way. And we'll see if they can do it in London against Arsenal with a 2-0 lead going into that one. Sad news to end the morning espresso on. One of the all-time greats in soccer in the United States passed away yesterday. Hank Steinbrecher, 77 years old. He was the U.S. Soccer Secretary General for 10 years, 1990 to 2000. That was a decade that changed soccer in this country forever. He's a great influence on the game. He was a great inspiration to those who worked in it. He was a mentor to many of today's leaders in the federation and in the leagues that are operating in this country. He helped modernize the U.S. Soccer Federation. When he came in, it was still essentially a volunteer run organization, helped really keep the World Cup here in 1994 and make sure it was going to be a success, but also looked ahead to what was to come afterwards and started soccer in this country off on a pathway that we're seeing all the full benefits of come to fruition today. He helped modernize, professionalize the federation, but he didn't lose that personal touch either. He supported every single aspect of soccer in this country. One of the stories that I've read over the last day is he would go visit state associations that nobody from the U.S. Soccer Federation went to visit in the past. He always supported the grassroots. During my time with soccer in the streets, I know he was a big supporter of the organization. He was a huge supporter of the U.S. Soccer Foundation. I had the chance to meet him a couple of times, and he just was always an incredibly genuine supporter of the game across every single level. I mean, you're talking about somebody in Hank Steinbrecher who, when he came into the U.S. Soccer Federation, the operating budget was less than $1 million. Now it's just under $1 billion. The office had less than 10 people in it. And now a national training center and headquarters is being built, and there's going to be a whole lot more than 10 people working in there. An incredible job to grow the game, and one of the, I think, most respected people on multiple levels, on a professional level and on a personal level in U.S. soccer history. Hank Steinbrecher passed away yesterday at the age of 77. Thank you for everything that you did to grow the game, Hank. We wouldn't be where we are today without you. That'll do it for this edition of the Morning Espresso. We'll be back tomorrow to kind of start looking ahead to the return to league action this weekend. We'll look ahead to Atlanta United hosting NYCFC on the weekend. Tons more to talk about tomorrow in a new edition of the Morning Espresso presented by Oglethorpe University.